Hello and welcome to Skedline's Municipal Election Pre-Show. I'm your host, Chelsea Shear.
And I'm Naren Yemnu.
For the next half hour, we will be profiling the 6 wards up for grabs in Etobicoke, looking at the race for the mayor's chair, and getting comments of those in the media who are covering the top 3 mayoral candidates. Naren, Etobicoke City Hall races feature some of the most hotly contested rivalries in this year's election. Tell us what we should keep a close eye on as the night progresses.
Well, it's important to know that 4 of the 6 city council seats representing Etobicoke at City Hall have no returning incumbent. Rob Ford is running in the riding of Ward 2 Etobicoke North, the area that jump-started his political career and where his brother was councillor for the last 4 years. Ward 3 residents have a familiar name on their ballots, as latecomer Stephen Holiday is attempting to replace his father Doug, who held the seat for over a decade.
Thanks, Naren. Ward 1 is a ward with an incumbent Vincent Crisanti, but other hopefuls are looking to win his seat. Visit skedline.com for more on that story.
Next, Brian Lee reports on the most high-profile ward race in the city. Aside from his health issues, Rob Ford has a couple of contenders hot on his heels trying to win the election in the area he knows well.
Ward 2, Etobicoke North, is a ward many will be watching on election night. It is bordered on the north and east by the Humber River. On its west side is the 427 and Pearson Airport. To the south is Highway 401, Dixon Road, and Larose Avenue. Major landmarks within include Woodbine Racetrack and Woodbine Center. Ward 2 is made up of 18,000 households and has a population just above 58,000. The largest demographic for annual housing income rests between 20 and 50,000, making it one of the more disadvantaged wards in Toronto. As a result, key issues that candidates will have to address include violence, like the recent shooting across the street from Don Bosco High School, and lack of services for low-income families. The ward is one of many within Toronto that is starved for proper transit as well. Ward 2 has been the domain of the Ford family for the last 14 years. Rob was councillor for the ward from 2000 until 2010, and Doug has been in the seat for the last 4 years. Rob's decision to drop out of the mayoral race due to health issues has led to him campaigning for the councillor seat in Ward 2 again. Ford's main competitor will be Andre Domise, a financial planner and community organizer who is backed by both the Toronto Star and Now Magazine. Looking forward to seeing how this will pan out. I'm Brian Lee for Skedline.
Thank you, Brian. Ward 3 has been home for the Holidays all of their lives. Stephen Holiday is looking to fill in for his father, but all candidates hope to claim his seat for their own. Alex Karageorgis reports.
Ward 3 Etobicoke Centre is bounded by Kipling Avenue in the east, Etobicoke Creek to the west, Eglinton Avenue west to the north, and is partially bounded by Burnhamthorpe Road and Dundas Street west to the south. When Doug Holiday was elected MP of Etobicoke Lakeshore last August, Peter Leon was appointed councillor. There is no incumbent as Leon is not running again. The ward has a population of just over 52,000, and 53% of people live in houses. Centennial Park is a venue for next year's Pan Am Games. Ward 3 is home to Toronto's second largest park. Proper maintenance and upkeep is important before the 2-week sporting event starts. Roadwork is a growing concern because it is causing heavy pockets of vehicle congestion in surrounding areas. Aging infrastructure is also an issue in the ward, especially after the flood and ice storms of 2013. Dean French hopes to use his business background to make decisions if elected.
Development should be paying for development, so developers are going to have to pay their share of making sure we update the infrastructure. The roads, the sewers, they're all very outdated here, and these are people's property values, and protecting property values is one of the reasons I got involved in this race.
Stephen Holiday is attempting to follow in his father's footsteps. Doug Holiday was re-elected in Ward 3 in 2010 with 70% of the popular vote.
Infrastructure in the area hasn't been upgraded since they were built. These are 50s era houses. We need to fight for our share of the capital repair dollars and reinvest in this ward and make sure that it's kept up to date.
Peter Fennick offers a fresh view into city politics with issues on taxes and transit.
very unlikely that they're going to jump on and off at $3 a pop. Now, if we have time-based transfers, that helps everyone because it helps local business. Most people go from a subway to their home. They don't stop along the way because they can't afford the extra $3.
As the campaign trail winds down for these city councilor candidates, the race in Ward 3 has no shortage of storylines to watch out for. Alex Karageorgis, skedline.com.
Thanks for that, Alex. Longtime City Councillor Gloria Lindsay Luby is not running again in Ward 4. Will the next councillor for Etobicoke Centre bring a change from her right-wing ideals? Emily Singh has more.
We are here in Ward 4 Etobicoke Centre. Because Gloria Lindsay Luby is not running for re-election, this leaves the field wide open for the other candidates. We were able to speak with John Campbell and Angelo Carnival about their role and about their campaign platforms. Etobicoke Centre Ward 4's boundaries are Dixon Road to Dundas Street West. Because current councillor Gloria Lindsay Luby is not running for re-election, John Campbell hopes to take her place.
All right, so I describe myself as a fiscally responsible liberal, or a person who believes in investing in communities. In this particular neighborhood of Etobicoke Centre, there was a lot of flooding during the summer of July and the summer of 2013. Many people experienced water damage. That was at great cost to local residents. I think that the city needs to be better prepared for these bad weather events that continue to occur. I also describe myself as someone who believes in supporting youth and seniors, and one of the things that this community is missing is a community center.
John Campbell's campaign platform includes tackling issues affecting Ward 4, one of them being the need to add bike lanes to the area. The demographics of the Ward 4 area is primarily seniors and also includes an ethnically diverse community. We spoke to Campbell's competition, Angelo Carnival, about his campaign platform and plans for the Etobicoke Centre area.
We should look at coordinating construction of roads, not simultaneously in the specific areas, so that alleviates traffic to move in other areas easier. Our transportation is crucial. We are a subway city. We continue to build subways. That's the best way to get people moving. No one in this ward wants anything above ground. Everybody wants transportation and then new transit moving underground. Trust is the huge one for me. Now, there has been a lack of communication in the ward over the years with our current councillor, and I believe communication creates that trust. So what I want to do is communicate with the constituents on a regular basis. What I want to do is be the link that connects Ward 4 to City Hall.
Now, it's up to the residents of Etobicoke Centre to vote for who they think will best represent the area. In Etobicoke Centre, Ward 4, I'm Emily Singh, Skedline.
Thanks, Emily. Current MPP Peter Milchin has two familiar faces running against him. Justin DiCanio was runner-up in the 2010 municipal election behind Milchin, and King Masurma was a former aide to Milchin during his time as a city councillor. Kyle Weiskell has the story.
Ward 5 Etobicoke Lakeshore houses more than 62,000 Torontonians. The area is in need of revitalization, and it will be up to the newly elected city councillor to address key issues. We spoke with candidate Ray D. Siletz about some of the issues surrounding the ward.
Until we get that critical mass of people, the Queensway will never revitalize itself. Any talk of bringing in bakeries and cafes and bistros and all these really cool things is pure fantasy until we get that critical mass of people. So extending the streetcar from Humber Loop and providing express service in the morning and afternoon rush hours just might be the catalyst that we need.
Ward 5 extends from the Gardiner Expressway north to Burnham Thorpe Road and east from Highway 427 to the Humber River. Justin DiCiano, who lost by only 109 votes in the last municipal election, is hoping to clinch the position of city councillor for the first time.
I would start with organizing residents associations right away, re-energize the Queensway Resident Association, start one for Stonegate, Maybell, and sit on the board of all of our existing BIAs to understand all of the issues fully and start planning from there.
Both DiCiano and DiSiletz plan to reconstruct the Kipling-Bloor interchange, located near Six Points Plaza. The current design creates congestion and traffic on a daily basis. One part of the revitalization efforts in Ward 5 include Maybell Park. DiCiano promises to reconstruct the playground to create a proper area for children to play. As well, the Maybell Urban Garden Project will allow residents to grow fruits and vegetables on a year-round basis. Reporting for skedline.com, Kyle Weiskell, Toronto.
Last but not least, Ward 6 has a bundle of different characters, ranging from a retired professional wrestler to an ex-police officer, and not to mention a Ford in between. All of them are looking to knock off incumbent Mark Grimes. Elisa Tria reports.
Ward 6 Etobicoke Lakeshore is at the southwest corner of Toronto. With Etobicoke Creek on the west side, Evans Avenue to the north, and Lake Ontario to the south, the picturesque area is developing, making way for new families, students, and business opportunities. Ward 6 has about 60,000 residents, mostly ages 45 to 54 years old. It is a multicultural community with a large population of Polish immigrants. About a third of people in the ward live in high-rise apartments, and because of students wanting to live a more convenient distance to Humber College's Lakeshore campus, 40% are one-person households. In the Kipling and Lakeshore area, there is a high concentration of schools. Because of that, issues involving students are important to voters. Transit is the biggest issue in the ward. The always crowded 44 Kipling South bus slows down commuters. Tony Vella, a former Toronto police officer running for council, says if he is elected, he will implement an express bus from Kipling Station straight south to Lakeshore Avenue West.
And one thing I was going to reference on my platform is to have an express bus for the students and for the local residents during peak times to take you right to the Kipling Station.
The 501 Queen Street car is also a hot topic. Former wrestler and current candidate Everett Shepherd says the time is up for streetcars and buses are the way to go.
I think to get back and forth from home to the schools a lot faster and a lot safer.
Russ Ford, the self-proclaimed anti-Ford candidate with the campaign posters emphasizing that there is no relation between him and the current mayor, says in the long term he wants to use existing rails to expand the transit system.
One thing this community has is rail lines. Why don't we use them?
Candidates also want to bring the community together by holding more family-friendly events.
One of the greatest ways of bringing people together is through music.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'd like to have more family things with music and stuff like that within the Lakeshore area.
More than one candidate says it's time for change. The current councillor of Ward 6, Mark Grimes, got 60% of the vote in the 2010 election. He is running for re-election, but some of his peers say he has not done enough.
And I think it's fair to say that I am the viable choice to the existing councillor, and we are, 180 degrees apart on most issues.
The councillor that we have has forgot about the people that elected him into office. Don't do anything for the people. As a matter of fact, they don't even return their calls.
Councillor Mark Grimes did not respond to interview request. There are 12 candidates running this year, 6 more than the last election, including local bookstore owner and social activist Michael Laxer, who also ran in the last municipal election. For more information on Laxer and his platform, look at his interview with reporter Sohini Mondel on skedline.com. For skedline.com, I'm Elisa Tria.
Thanks, Elisa. Now over to the main event, the triple threat match for the mayor's chair. Standing in one corner, a former MP and city councillor with years of experience. In the other corner, an ex-provincial Conservative leader and mayoral runner-up. And in the third corner, a city councillor who was trying to carry on the family name. Olivia Chow first stepped into politics at the municipal level in the old city of York. She served as councillor for 6 years during the 90s. The municipality was dissolved into the mega city of Toronto, and she continued as a city councillor for another 8 years. She then pursued federal politics, winning the MP seat in the Trinity Spadina, where she resigned this March in order to run for mayor. Annika Dersova has the detail on Chair's run.
Olivia Chow was born in Hong Kong. At the age of 13, her and her family moved to Canada to escape the Chinese Cultural Revolution. Her immigration status has always played a central role in the race. In 2012, the Canadian Immigration Magazine named her one of the top 25 Canadian immigrants.
Ms. Chow says she will need to borrow up to $1 billion from different governments, as well as the Premier's approval to invest into the TTC subway plan.
Olivia promises to pay for the TTC plan by bringing in progressive taxes and increasing the land transfer progressive tax for homes that are over $2 million. Olivia's plan focuses on the overall quality for Torontonians. She promises to tackle gridlock and plant more trees to decrease pollution. Olivia is also known for riding her brightly colored flower bicycle to the City Hall. We can say that is the reason why she wants to focus on safer biking and smarter economic development.
I have taken a lot of buses in Scarborough, which is why we need light rapid transit so that it can be done in 5 years. In fact, that Shepherd LRT, light rapid transit, had it not been stopped in 2011, it would have been finished by September of last year. And that's what's tragic about it. All these studies have been done. Many years of work have been done, and yet all of that have been wasted in the last 4 years. So I say, get on with the construction right now, get it done before 2020, so that Scott will have really good public transit, be it buses or light rapid transit.
Everyone counts, no matter what's their age or their background, where they came from, what their income is, which neighborhood they come from. Everyone counts. And I have a very clear vision to invest in people right now. The other two candidates are mostly about cutting services, cutting taxes, about tearing down. I'm about building up.
For me, this was the first time ever participating in a mayoral debate or any kind of political debate, to be honest. And I think that it was really interesting to see a lot of the different people supporting the different sides, the different candidates.
Earlier today, the CP24 announced that 57% of Torontonians would rather want the subway built. At the Scarborough U of T campus, the mayoral candidate debate, we have Doug Ford, who called Tory's plan full of holes, comparing it to a Swiss cheese. Olivia Chow wants more diversity, and she wants to invest into the community rather than take away from the community. My name is Annika Dorisova, reporting for Skedline News.
Thank you, Annika. John Tory began his political career in the early 80s, serving in the office of then Toronto Premier Bill Davis and later as a tour director and campaign chairman for Prime Minister Brian Mulroney. He took a break from political life and worked in the private sector as the president and CEO of the Rogers in the mid to late 90s. Tory then returned to politics, running in the 2003 municipal election as a mayoral candidate, only to come behind David Miller. He was also active in the provincial politics briefly before hosting a radio show on News Talk 1010 up until entering this year's race for mayor. Nakshi Pandit has more from the Tory camp.
John Tory is the front-runner for the 2014 mayoral race at his second crack at mayoralty. His platform so far has focused on building subways with a smart track plan, reducing gridlock with technology-based solutions, bike lanes, and keeping taxes low with his conservative policies.
Who is going to be best to deal with the Stephen Harper majority conservative government and the Kathleen Wynne liberal government to get the support we need in the city? And who is most likely to stand up?
Tory has presented himself as a candidate that is the best suited to deal with different levels of government. Grant Moffat is a Humber College student that is going to vote for John Tory because of his conservative policies and because he's not a Ford.
I don't know, he just seems like he's smart with his money, and that he'll save taxpayers' money. It's kind of like what Ford did, but without all the scandals and all that extra stuff that nobody really wants.
Doug Ford is gaining ground on Tory and voter support, but has been stalled at about one-third of support according to polls. Many students do not support John Tory because they feel that his smart track plan and other policies do not benefit them. Malik Ba is a Humber College student that plans to vote for Olivia Chow because of her student-friendly policies.
I don't know, I like her stance. I like her opinions on what should be done about the TDC.
basically students. She's more inclusive, I find, within everybody, like every population of people, than I would say Doug Ford or John Tory in that sense.
John Tory made a controversial comment at a debate saying he will cut funding for the Pride Parade if a pro-Palestine queer group marches.
Would you cut the funding?
You know, if we have to establish some principles about what we talked about both so enthusiastically and so in such a committed way at the beginning of this meeting about how we have to have respect for human rights and have to have respect, I would. Yes, I would.
Tory is criticized for his lack of platform on childcare policies also, particularly by Olivia Chow, who has pledged $15 million of the city's budget towards it, according to the Toronto Star. She questioned why Tory is not putting 1 penny or 1 nickel onto a childcare platform, according to the Star. This is Tory's second attempt at mayoralty in the last 4 elections. Outside of politics, John Tory is a businessman and on the board of directors for Rogers. He was also the leader of the Ontario Conservative Party from 2004 to 2009. Tory represented the riding of Dufferin Peel Wellington Grey from 2005 to 2007.
John Tory is in the lead to take over City Hall for 2014's mayoral race. Reporting for Skedline, this is Nakshi Pandit.
Thanks, Nakshi. Prior to entering the political scene, Doug Ford was president of his late father's company, Deco Labels and Tags. He succeeded his brother Rob after he was elected to Toronto City Council in Ward 2 in 2010. The brothers were an immovable force when it came to issues in council, both expressing the same values. Doug spoke up frequently during last year's scandal, standing by his brother's side and being a mouthpiece when the mayor couldn't or didn't address the media. Noel Fortner takes a look at Doug's campaign until this point.
Doug Ford has been picking up where his brother Rob left off, pushing his subway expansion plan and serving the good tax-paying folk of Toronto. But just days before the election, Doug could be seen out throughout the city meeting as many people as possible. As many people know, Doug Ford is the brother of Mayor Rob Ford and the son of the late MPP, Doug Ford Sr. This lifelong Etobicoke resident is president of the family business Deco Labels and Tags and an active member of the Toronto West Rotary Club for the last 20 years. It wasn't until 2010 that Doug was elected into Rob's old job as Ward 2 City Councillor, collecting 70% of the vote while Rob moved into the mayor's seat. After Rob's diagnosis this fall, the Fords acted quickly, with Doug taking Rob's place to fight in this year's mayoral election. His platform remains identical to Rob's, which includes a $9 billion transit plan and the phasing out of the land transfer tax. Ivor Tossell is a professor at Humber College and has written a book called The Gift of Ford. He outlined the differences voters see between the brothers.
Yeah, they're very different. They're very different people. I think they certainly appeal to the same base, and they certainly have the same kind of hardcore supporters. And I think Rob's supporters went over to Doug, but they're very different people. Rob was kind of a lovable goof, or worse.
Throughout the campaign, Doug could be seen going door to door handing out pamphlets containing his 13 promises, such as investing $30 million a year in TTC improvements, finishing the Shepherd Subway and Yonge Relief Line, and opposing any move to tear down the Gardiner. Being a small government conservative, he advocates spending restraint and greater corporate involvement in public sector projects. As Doug prepares for election night, confidence is not an issue.
Always ready. I'm going to debate him right here.
Noel Fortner, reporting for Sked Live.
Thanks for that, Noel. There are a lot of issues each mayoral candidate has touched on during the last few months, from transit plans to property taxes, but what does this all mean when people head to the polls? Sabrina Biot sits down with City Hall reporter Matt Elliott to discuss how the 3 top contenders match up and who he thinks will be elected mayor.
I'm Sabrina Biot, here with Matt Elliott, the City Hall columnist from the Metro. Thank you for being here with me today.
No problem. Happy to be here.
So, why are there so many more voters this year than in previous elections?
It's probably a combination of things. You don't want to read too much into a phenomenon like this because it's the first time we've really seen it. But one of the factors is the fact that there's more places where people could go for advanced turnouts. So, there's a place close to your house that wasn't there last time. Maybe you go vote for that. But there are other reasons as well. I don't think you can just chalk it up to that because the numbers are so much bigger this year. For me, I think a big part of it is just, we've put a lot of attention on City Hall over the last 4 years. Everybody worldwide knows the name Rob Ford. So this is an election that is more in the front of people's minds than has been in the past for City Hall elections, which usually don't have great turnout.
Why do you think those previous turnouts have been so low before?
Well, in a lot of cases, it was boring. It's sad to say because I'm interested in politics. I think politics is fascinating, especially municipally. But for a lot of people, it's just not something that they put a lot of stock in. It's not something you really see a lot of on TV as compared to, the Prime Minister or even the Premier. When David Miller was the mayor, he was not really known for much aside from, having blonde hair and, running a few road races throughout the year and, the political stuff. So it wasn't top of mind. And, in other elections, we didn't have the high-profile challengers either. When David Miller ran for re-election in 2006, his highest-profile challenger was a councillor, that nobody really knew, and very few people probably remember at this point. Whereas John Tory and Olivia Chow are pretty well household names in Toronto. Even if you're not super involved in politics, you've probably heard both those names even before the election started.
Do you think there's also this mindset that vote for someone who's not Rob Ford?
I think that's undoubtedly part of it. It's not necessarily that people are like, oh man, I don't like John Tory, but I really want to stop Rob Ford, so I'm going to vote for John Tory. I think ultimately a lot of people feel like John Tory is just sort of, whatever. He's like the shrug, it might as well be John Tory. He kind of looks like, a mayor that you would see in a movie about a guy who was a mayor. Like he has that sort of look to him that people look at and say, well, he's got to be better than what we've had, or at least calmer. He can make City Hall boring again, and for a lot of people, I think that is just something they want. They don't want to see Toronto in getting the same kind of headlines it's gotten over the last 4 years.
So then why not Chow?
Well, that's going to be the million-dollar question, and there's going to be a lot of analysis as to what happened to Olivia Chow's campaign over the summer, because there really was this moment in July where Olivia Chow was riding high. Her poll numbers were fantastic. She looked like the person everybody would go to because she could have done exactly what John Tory has done, where people are just like, well, Olivia Chow's a nice lady. She's not going to get involved in crack cocaine and gangs and stuff, most likely. So why not? Let's just go with her. We'll all get behind her, and she'll be the new mayor. But something happened in the summer. John Tory pulled away, and it's interesting. I've talked to a lot of people about this. It's really hard to pin down a moment where it switched from Olivia Chow to John Tory.
Any major issues that have not been covered in this election?
Yes. So many issues that haven't been covered in this election. This is a weird election. Like 2010, you go back, and even Rob Ford had, a pretty detailed set of platforms and positions. Whereas right now, the guy in front, John Tory, has played it so safe to the fact, he has his transit plan, but that's about it. So this election has, he has a few other little tiny things here, but it doesn't have like a full 40-page platform document, which is pretty standard for politicians to have. He hasn't done that. So really it's become about transit maps, which is great because transit's really important, but none of these transit projects can be built for at least 7 years, optimistically. So we haven't talked about things that are going to happen like on day one of John Tory being mayor or the others being mayor. What are you going to do? So little things are being forgotten.
What do you predict for the night of the election?
All signs point to John Tory walking away with this thing. I think it'll end up being pretty boring. It'll be like last time where, because they count the ballots electronically, 10 minutes in we'll know who won. There won't be like a big 2-hour thing. We'll have the result very, very quickly.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem.
It is 8 p.m. in the city of Toronto, and the polls are now closed for the 2014 municipal election. Torontonians cast their ballots at voting stations throughout the day to vote for who they want to represent them at City Hall. And the last week, it was over 160,000 people who turned out for the advanced polls, double the amount in 2010. Joining me in the studio right now is Skedline's election night analyst, Angelica Sidney. She's following the Toronto mayoral race, and Nurin Yemnu is tracking results in each of Etobicoke's 6 wards. Earlier today, we got a reaction from people who went out to vote in Etobicoke. Skedline reporter Emma Shatoshin has the story.
Standing outside 20th Street Junior School,
Etobicoke's polling station for Ward 6, speaking with voters as to why they voted, who they voted for, and why it's important.
I voted for Olivia Chow because I feel that she is the only candidate running as herself and not just as another politician.
And why do you believe that it's important for people to vote?
I think it's important for people to vote because if you don't vote, you shouldn't be complaining about anything that goes on because you didn't do anything to change it.
Of course. And is this your first time voting?
This is my first time voting in Toronto. I have voted for the provincial election earlier this year.
I voted for John Tory. It was up and down for between him and Chow, but near the end it was more Tory. No Fords for me. We've learned our lessons, a lot of us, and so I won't go on any further about that.
With so much focus being placed on the mayoral elections, it seems as though many citizens are not made aware of their councillors and trustees.
Trustee, I'm not too sure. I just eeny, meeny, miny, mo, because I didn't see any literature or anything about it. So it seems to be trustees don't get a lot of exposure about what they're doing in our area. But so that's why I voted that way.
All in all, it seems like it's going to be a very close race for all of Toronto's candidates.
I voted for Rob Ford, and I voted strictly because of what the media has done to him over the last few months. They haven't let up on the poor guy. There's one negative story after the other for the last 8 months. And you know what? The guy didn't do a bad job originally. He had problems, he had some issues. He straightened himself out a little bit. But every day they kept on coming back at it. He's not him, it's his business, it's whatever. And that's basically the main reason why I think a lot of people will vote for him today.
This has been Emma Shatoshin for skedline.com.
Thanks, Emma. Angelica, who are the top 3 contenders and what are some of the important issues on this year's mayoral race?
Thank you, Chelsea. The top 3 contenders are John Tory, Olivia Chow, and Doug Ford. Tory started his pursuit of the mayor's chair in late February. Chow's resigned her federal seat and entered the race in March. And finally, Doug Ford filed his papers in early September in a twist of events that we'll talk about later. Transit is at the forefront of each platform. These candidates are proposing different plans for this issue. Also, the city's rising property values and taxes are important issues for voters, especially the land transfer tax. Because of this, women's issues and youth unemployment problems have been overshadowed in this campaign. The race for mayor has also been exceptional this year for other reasons, and we'll also discuss those reasons during tonight's show.
Thanks, Angelica. Now we are shifting our focus to Etobicoke City Council races. Nurin, what are the ward races to watch out for in Etobicoke?
Well, first off, 4 of the 6 council seats representing Etobicoke at City Hall have no returning incumbent. Family is a theme in a couple of the wards in Etobicoke as well. Rob Ford is running in Ward 2 Etobicoke North, which has been a Ford stronghold for the last 14 years. Ford's brother Doug won the seat when Rob was elected mayor in 2010. Prior to being voted mayor, Rob held the seat for 10 years. Former mayor of Old City of Etobicoke and longtime Ward 3 councillor Doug Holliday is keeping it in the family as well. His son Stephen is running to replace him in an area they have lived for all of their lives.
Thanks, Nurin. We also have reporters in the field with the latest news at each of the top mayoral candidates' camps. Lloyd Kwanzaa is at Olivia Chow's party headquarters. How's the atmosphere over there, Lloyd?
This is Lloyd Kwanzaa from skedline.com. I'm here at 585 Dundas Street East in Regent Park for Olivia Chow's election night party. We are still waiting for arrival, and the atmosphere here in this building is very quiet, as the media is the only ones in the building. Her constituents and Olivia are still not arrived, but we're hoping to see lots of progress here in this building. Olivia all day has been canvassing all the way from Markham down to Etobicoke, trying to get everyone's support and votes. She actually cast her own ballot at 10 a.m. this morning, the only candidate that has not done it so. Olivia's so far remained third in polls, and which is very sad for her, but we'll see if she can pull through.
Thanks for that, Lloyd. Brad McDonald is covering Ford Nation and watching the election numbers roll in. What's going on, Brad?
We're here at the Ford campaign party at the Woodbine Banquet Hall in Rexdale. For now, the mood is pretty quiet, but it's not somber. There's, I think, nervous anticipation, as you could imagine, on an election night. I've seen Jeff Silverstein and Amanda Mathuti from Rob and Doug Ford's campaign teams and their nephew Michael Ford. They've all been around. They're all smiles. They seem to be in pretty good spirits, making quiet conversation with some of the volunteers and staffers here. For now, it's mostly just volunteers and staffers and mostly media, actually, but no doubt Ford supporters will make their way here. They're known for their large crowds and their large crowd presence. I'm expecting a pretty big party up here in Rexdale, no matter what the result. This is Brad McDonald for Skedline.
Thank you, Brad. Joyita Sengupta is at Liberty Grand, where Tory camp is waiting for results. How's the mood, Joyita?
Coming at you live from the Liberty Grand, where John Tory and his family should be arriving any minute now, and we'd imagine he's feeling pretty good considering the latest polls on Friday placed him at a comfortable 11% lead from Doug Ford, the runner-up, with Olivia Chow running at about 25% among decided voters. But that didn't stop him from squeezing in some last-minute campaigning this morning, meeting with commuters at Sherbourne subway station. And we'll be bringing you more updates throughout the night as the evening progresses. This is Joyita Sengupta for Skedline. Back to the studio.
Breaking up.
Thanks, Joyita. Now we'll go into the Skedline's newsroom, where Adam Janssen is surfing social media to get the latest news on the election results and reaction.
Here at the social media desk, we are seeing some interaction on Twitter. We have people reporting on long lines at several polling stations across the city, and people who were in line before 8 p.m. will still be allowed to vote. So people are tweeting about that. That have been some tweets from Daniel Dale, the Toronto Star reporter, and several other Twitter personalities. We are also seeing a lot of people who are tweeting about who they voted for and throwing their support behind one of the three top mayoral candidates, Olivia Chow, Doug Ford, and John Tory. Now back to the studio.
Thank you, Adam.
Naren, tell us about the first two ward races in Etobicoke. One has an incumbent and the other one has a Ford?
Yes, incumbent Vincent Crisanti is looking for re-election in Ward 1. He is a Ford loyalist, one of the few councillors to vote against stripping Rob Ford of his mayoral power when Ford admitted to using crack cocaine. This decision slashed the mayor's budget and transferred most of Rob's authority to Deputy Mayor Norm Kelly. Crisanti believes in saving taxpayers' money and building subways, especially along Finch West, that will help service in this ward. Adele Borelli is the main contender to take his seat. Borelli is a social activist within the Somali Canadian community, and she's a founding member of the Positive Change TO, which is an advocacy group attempting to end youth violence in Toronto. This is where we find Sarah Sekira. She's covering Ward 1. What's going on there, Sarah?
I'm at Ward 1, standing outside of Vincent Crisanti's campaign office. Cars are rolling in. People are walking in. The mood is relatively quiet, but it seems to be brightening up as the amounts of people continue to flow. I spoke to him earlier. He is definitely feeling confident about winning the campaign and continuing as the Ward 1 representative. He is definitely looking forward to continuing his platform, cleaning up the community, focusing on crime prevention and TTC infrastructure. For skedline.com, I'm Sarah Sakura.
Thanks, Sarah. Speaking of Fords, Rob Ford has some young challengers in Ward 2 Etobicoke North who are trying to begin their political careers where he did. One main challenger is Andre Demise, a financial planner within the insurance industry who has experience in politics. Volunteering at the municipal and provincial level, Nakshi Panda is at Demise's watching party. Nakshi, how's it going over there?
Camille and I are at 15 Grierson Road in Etobicoke, where Ward 2 Councillor candidate Andre Demise will be holding his election party. There are no guests here yet, but Andre Demise himself and his guests are expected to arrive at about 8 p.m. when the polls are going to close.
Thank you, Nakshi. Now we flip it over to Angelica with more.
Thank you. There are other important races going on tonight in the rest of Toronto and the surrounding GTA. For that, we go to Tim Paul as he breaks down the closest and the most contentious battles outside of Etobicoke and the Toronto mayor.
I'm Tim Paul, and tonight I'm going to be giving you updates on what else is happening around the GTA from all of the 44 other council races. We're going to start with our top 5 wards to watch. First, we're going to be starting with Ward 7, when 20-year incumbent Giorgio Mammoliti is going to be facing his toughest challenge yet against contender Nick D'Annunzio. Mammoliti has made headlines earlier in the year when he referred to the Parkdale neighborhood as a pedophile district. The outspoken councillor is in for a tough challenge as D'Annunzio lost narrowly back in 2010. Another exciting ward that we're going to be watching is Ward 9, when bad blood has been brewing since 2010. In another rematch, Maria Ajameri, the incumbent, narrowly defeated Gus Cusimano. Cusimano challenged the results in court, but ultimately lost the decision. We're also going to be watching Ward 12, York South-Weston. The ward is a highly contested race, and we're also going to be looking at Ward 20 in Trinity Spadina. The race, those are the key races that we'll be watching now. Thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you soon. Back to you guys.
Thanks for that, Tim.
One hot button issue, if not the hottest button issue in this race for mayor, is transit. Angelica, what can you tell us about John Tory's Smart Track plan?
Tory's Smart Track plan is based on a 22-station transit system costing roughly $8 billion. It will be a surface subway using the same electrical technology that propels passenger cars in our subways. This method is commonly used in other major cities like the London Underground, but not implemented here in Toronto. Tory hopes to have the Smart Track completed by 2021.
How does he plan on funding this $8 billion Smart Track?
So Tory says the money will be coming from the tax increment financing, known in short as TIF. TIF will see the taxing of developmental projects in Liberty Village, the East Donlands, and the downtown core. Tory wants the $8 billion upfront from Queen's Park, and the TIF will repay the province over time.
This issue is probably a deciding factor for many voters. Thanks for that, Angelica. Naren, can you tell us what commute connection problems the Smart Track will solve for Torontonians?
Yes, so Tory's Smart Track aim is to link Markham, Toronto's downtown core, and the airport corporate centre. In other words, it would serve Western Scarborough, Southern Toronto, and the Etobicoke Centre. Tory says his Smart Track plan will help reduce traffic for commuters coming from outside of Toronto and help ease congestion downtown.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump to Joita at the John Tory headquarters.
Here at the Liberty Grand, the room is buzzing as results are starting to come in. Tory is clearly at the lead at about 149 and 762 votes. At Doug Ford at 134,021 votes. Pretty big gap right there. We know John Tory and his family are in the building upstairs watching things as they come in, and there's cheers here in the room from supporters with any update. We know we saw political supporters, including Adam Bond, MPP of Mississauga South, wandering around the room. So now we're just waiting for John Tory to come down and speak to us on that podium.
Thanks, Joita. Angelica, let's get back to the Smart Track. How is it going to run?
So the new Smart Track cars will run along the existing GO train lines, also a large part of the vacant Eglinton Avenue West. Tory's Smart Track plan would replace the extension of the Eglinton Crosstown LRT line.
Naren, what could go wrong here? Can you outline the cons for us?
Well, many experts believe TIF will fall short of revenue, which would mean the city would not be able to pay back the province for funding the track in the first place. TIF's plan is to generate revenue from taxing areas that are already highly developed. The project itself is very costly, and 3 LRTs would be built for the exact same price. It could take a long time before transit gridlock is resolved and the rail wouldn't even run into the airport itself, only to service offices outside of the airport.
Okay, thanks, Naren. Can you tell us about Olivia Chow's transit plan now?
Yes. Chow's campaign motto for transit is about moving people now. She wants to invest $15 million a year to help increase bus services. Some money will also go towards new bus garages. Chow believes investing the money now will help clear some of the congestion, especially along King Street and the Gardner.
What does Chow support in terms of an LRT or a subway line?
Chow says she is in favor of the LRT on Finch and Shepherd East. She wants to support a subway relief line plan that includes an estimated $20 million investment for an engineering study before the city can begin building. Chow will now need councillors on board with her transit vision before she can see her changes come into fruition.
Right. Thank you, Nurin. And how can you explain now how Olivia Chow plans on increasing taxes to fund this transit plan?
Chow wants the taxes to be progressive. She wants to increase the land transfer tax by 1% on homes that sell for more than $2 million. Currently, every household owner in Toronto must pay a 2% property tax if their house is worth over $400,000.
Thank you, Nurin. Let's talk about Doug Ford's transit plans now. Angelica, can you explain what Ford is pitching?
So the story with Doug Ford is much as the same as his brother. It's about getting those shovels and start digging underground because that's the way to go. It's subways, subways, and subways. Doug Ford has 4 big plans for transit. The first is complete the Shepherd subway line by replacing the existing LRT tracks from Don Mills to McCowan, which will connect to the existing Shepherd subway line. In the second phase, he wants to construct a young relief line from Queen to Pape that will be a 5.5 kilometers of new tracks that will cost approximately $3.2 billion. The third part of Ford's transit strategy is to finish the Eglinton Underground, which right now, this is the Eglinton Crosstown that runs into Laird. Ford wants to bury the Eglinton line from Laird to Kennedy. The current plan has Laird to Kennedy above ground. And finally, Doug Ford wants to improve the Finch subway line so it connects to Finch West Station to Humber College North. This would run 11 kilometers and cost about $2.6 billion. Doug Ford does not believe in raising taxes, so what he wants to do is he wants to get help from the provincial and federal government.
So how much will Ford's plan cost altogether then?
So approximately, it will cost around $9 billion for 32 kilometers of new subway lines.
Okay. And how does Ford plan to fund his transit strategy without raising taxes?
So we already know that he's not a supporter of raising taxes. In his campaign pamphlet, he listed multiple options to fund his transit plan, including that he wants to work with the provincial and federal government. Like Tory, Ford also supports the tax increment financing, but he disagrees with Olivia Chow's plan, which is to build a Shepherd and Finch LRT. So instead, what Ford wants to do is he wants to reallocate the funding from the LRT projects to support his own subway projects. Now we're going to throw to Adam, who is keeping his eye on the results and reaction at the social media desk. Adam, what is the latest?
Well, here at the social media desk, again, we are following closely what is happening in this very riveting election tonight. People are tweeting a lot about the different ward races and the mayoral race here, about the results that are just flowing in right now. We are following the TOPOLI hashtag very closely, and it is just erupting with tweets from anyone and everyone, essentially, both journalists, candidates, and regular people. So right now, it seems to be that people are just excited about what's happening in the city. Back to the studio.
Thanks again, Adam.
Nurin, many residents in Etobicoke have a vested interest in these next 2 wards. One race features a prominent name in the community, and the other ward has a blue-collar and a white-collar frontrunners vying for an open seat.
Yes, Ward 3 is where Stephen Holiday finds himself knocking on the same doors that his father Doug did when he ran in the area. Both father and son live across the same street from each other. This is how closely connected the Holidays are to the ward that they have lived in all their lives. But businessman Dean French and tech support analyst Peter Finech offer different views that could change the result of who comes out on top. With more, Kyle Wiskiel is at the Holiday camp. How is it going over there, Kyle?
So we're at Stephen Holiday's house right now, and there's lots of excitement. Kids are running around, the family's starting to show up. The house is decorated not only for election night, but Halloween. Stephen Holiday himself is actually out right now finishing up, so he's soon to arrive as people show up to show the support. Tensions are high. People are kind of nervous, excited. They're eager to see which way that the vote will go. And overall it's a good atmosphere here at Stephen Holiday's house. Kyle Wiskiel, skedline.com, back to the studio.
Thank you, Kyle. There are 2 very different candidates profiling in Ward 4. John Campbell is a former Toronto District School Board trustee and chairman. Campbell also ran in the last election, but lost to longtime City Councillor Gloria Lindsay-Luby by a slim margin. On the other end of the spectrum, Angelo Carnevale is the owner of a construction company, former president of a local Italian social club, and an assistant coach to his son's hockey team. Carnevale says his main objectives, if elected, are to fix potholes and make the most out of people's tax dollars. Campbell and Carnevale face off against Neil Christensen. We find Emily Singh at the Islington Golf Club, where Christensen's camp is located. Emily, what's going on over there?
Thank you. I'm here with Annika Jursova at the Islington Golf Club as we await the results for the Ward 4 municipal elections. This event is put on by Ward 4 candidate Niels Christensen. Christensen has served a decade in the police force and is a well-known figure in the Etobicoke Centre neighborhood. He has also been involved with a non-profit organization that provides access to education. It is a full house as we await the results. The crowd is anxious as they hope for a victorious finish for Christensen. Now back to you.
Thanks for that, Emily.
Now we'll go over to Tim Paul in the newsroom with some updates from around the city.
Thanks. So we've got our first results coming in from Ward 7, York West. Giorgio Mammalidi is in the lead with 46% of the vote. In second place, Nick Denizio is holding 36%, and John Chambers is coming in third with 5% of the vote. Elsewhere in York West, Ward 8, Anthony Peruza is leading handily 70%. In second place is Arthur Smitherman with 10%, and Susan Narain, a schoolteacher, has 7% of the vote. On to Ward 9 in York Center. Maria Ajameri is holding steady at 41%. In second place is Gus Cusimano at 29%, and Anthony Fernando is in third place with 24% of the vote so far. Elsewhere in Ward 10, York Center, James Pasternak is leading with 58% of the vote so far. Igor Tushinsky is at 15%, followed in third by David Epstein at 11%. Ward 11 is Francis Nunziata is actually leading with 70% of the vote so far. Jose Garcia is in a distant second with only 17%, and Dori Kaloub is in third with 11%. In Ward 12, York Southweston, Frank DeGiorgio is narrowly leading with 28% of the vote. He's followed closely by John Nunziata with 26%, and in third place, Nick Dominelli is at 24% of the vote. Those are your updates now for the ward.
Thanks, Tim. We will now turn our attention to the media frenzy that surrounded this mayoral race more than any other municipal election in recent memory. One candidate is a polarizing figure who has been in the headlines with his brother a lot in this past year, and the other two candidates have lengthy political careers. Angelica, what has been Olivia Chow's media presence so far?
So Olivia Chow is thought to be the only viable left-wing choice for mayor. But the media response to her platform is that she lacks direction and substance, according to some of her critics. Instead, Chow has emphasized investing in different areas from daycares to affordable housing. But where is this money coming from? Chow is a champion for the youth, especially since she was the only one of the three top candidates to show up at an important transit debate by Ryerson students. She's also been the voice for women, people of color, and immigrants. During Eid, Olivia Chow wore a hijab. During Scotiabank's Caribbean Carnival, she wore a cultural Caribbean costume. Chow seems to be the most in touch with Toronto's multicultural communities, and the media has recognized that.
Nurin, what has John Tory's media presence been like in the last few months?
John Tory is a skilled communicator, but has been criticized for flip-flopping on his transit plan. His leadership and judgment skills have been questioned since he supported funding all faith-based schools when he ran for premier in 2007. Tory was also a board member of an American cable television company that filed for bankruptcy in 2000. He did not announce this part of his working career publicly, and in a CTV debate when all three mayoral candidates had lie detector tests, Tory Result found 3 false statements he made about his smart track plan and how he will finance it. This could affect the voters' view, the main component of Tory's platform.
Angelica, back to you. How has Doug carried himself in the media during his campaigning?
So where do we begin with Doug Ford? This past Wednesday, he used an offensive term against a woman reporter from the Toronto Star. After the CTV debate with the lie detector test, Ford made 23 comments that were either misleading or downright false. The media frenzy with Doug is nothing new. He was a major player in addressing the media when his brother's crack scandal was making all of last year's headlines, standing by the mayor's side and denying reports or questioning the integrity of reporters. Now we'll go back to Adam, who's paying close attention to the election outcomes.
Well, here at the social media desk, we can report that Twitter is just exploding with the news coming out, that several news organizations is reporting that we have a result in for the mayoral race, and people are just tweeting as crazy, really. We have been seeing it all night, but people are just, I'm looking at the hashtag Teopoli, and it's just erupting. And now I'm going to throw it back to the studio because I believe we have a very important call to make.
This just in, multiple sources are reporting that John Tory is Toronto's new mayor. Tory is Toronto's 65th mayor. John Tory began his political career in the early 80s serving in the office of then Ontario Premier Bill Davis, and later as a tour director and campaign chairman for Prime Minister Brian Mulroney. He took a break from his political life and worked in the private sector and as the president and CEO of Rogers in the mid to late 1980s. Tory then returned to politics, running in the 2003 municipal election as a mayoral candidate, only to become behind David Miller.
He was also active in provincial politics and briefly before hosting a radio show on News Talk 1010 up until entering this year's mayoral race.
So now we're actually going to just take a break and we're going to send it over to Joita Sanguta at the Tory camp.
Well, results are coming in, and CBC and CP24 are among news outlets announcing John Tory is Toronto's new mayor, making him the 65th mayor of Toronto. Now, whether it's his smart track plan or people just wanting to have change in the city, looks like they're going to have it. Tory is the new mayor of Toronto. He's going to wait for Doug Ford and Olivia Chow to make his announcements before he makes it down to the podium. Back to you.
Thanks, Joyita. We now have the 6 winners of the runners for city councillor in all 6 wards. Ward 1 winner is Vincent Crisanti, won against Avatar Minhas. Ward 2 winner is Rob Ford. Also for Ward 3, we have Stephen Holiday. Ward 4, John Campbell beat out Niels Christensen. Ward 5, we have Justin DiCiano beating King Asurma. Ward 6, we have Mark Grimes winning over Russ Ford and Tony Vella. Those are our 6 winners in the Ward 1 to 6 city councillors candidates.
So now we're going to throw it over to Tim Paul.
Wrapping up new results now from wards 13 to 20. In Ward 13, Parkdale High Park, Sarah Doucette is leading with 63% of the vote. In second is Nick Pavlov at 10%, and coming in third is Terrace Kulish with 5%. Ward 14 in Parkdale High Park sees Gord Perks leading with 54% of the vote. Charmaine Emerson is at 32%, and coming in third is Tim Kirby holding 4% of the vote. On to Ward 15 in Eglinton and Lawrence. Josh Cole is leading with 73% of the vote. He's followed in second place by Shani Irene Bain with 14% and Ahmed Belkadi with 6% of the vote. Also in Eglinton Lawrence, Christine Carmichael Greb is leading with 19%. Adam Tannell has 16% of the vote, and Dayanush Yusevi has 15% of the vote. Moving into Ward 17 in Davenport, the front runner right now is Cesar Palacio at 52%. In second place, Alejandra Bravo has 38%, and Saeed Salyam has 7% of the vote in third right now. Also in Ward 18, Davenport, Anna Baeo is leading with 45% of the vote, but she's followed closely by Alex Mazer, who's holding 41%. In third is Mohammed Whedon with 3%. Ward 19 in Trinity Spadina, Mike Layton is leading comfortably at 83% of the vote right now. In second is Scott Bowman with 9%, and in third is Albina Burello with 4% of the vote. In Ward 20, Trinity Spadina, the leader is Joe Cressy with 43%. Terry Chu has 12%, and Sarah Thompson has 9% of the vote.
Okay, and now we're going to take a look back at how our Skedline reporters covered the craziness surrounding both Ford brothers last November. Now we're going to talk about, I talked about with both reporters on their experience and what it was like to be a student reporter at City Hall. Let's take a look. It was a whirlwind year for Skedline reporters covering the drama surrounding Mayor Rob Ford. It began on October 31st, almost 1 year ago today, when the Toronto police announced they were in possession of a video showing Rob Ford smoking crack cocaine.
Yes, I have smoked crack cocaine.
When,
But
sir?
no, do I? Am I an addict? No.
When have you
I
smoked
tried
crack
it? Probably in one of my drunken stupors, probably approximately about a year ago.
What was the atmosphere that day with the press?
It was a very weird kind of atmosphere that day. We were all standing outside the mayor's office, and if you've been at City Hall, you know there's an elevator coming up, and there's a couple of feet before he hits his office or reaches his office. And we're just standing around, and as he walks out from the elevator, there's just dead silence. And then someone shouts out, "Why do you always send out your brother to speak for you?" And then it was just the thing that happened after was very weird. He just started to talk, and then he said, "You asked me a question back in May, ask it again." And Jackson Proskauer from Global said, "Do you smoke crack cocaine?" And he said, "Yes, I smoke crack cocaine." And at that point, things kind of just went chaotic.
On November 7th, another video surfaced in the media, but this one contained Rob ranting about an unnamed individual.
It's one more terrible piece of evidence about a terrible story about a mayor who has certainly acted in disgraceful ways.
Do you at any point think that it was right for the Toronto Star to release that video without context?
The thing is that whenever an elected official is given the trust of the people, they're expected to hold up some element of, there's a way you're supposed to act in public and private too, because these people are the ones we've trusted with to take care of things, and whether or not it's behind closed doors or not, when they're saying things like that and making actions like he was, I think it's in the public interest to know.
If you were given the same opportunity, would you have run the video?
I'm really kind of thinking about it. I think you do have to run it, but I think you need to at least frame it in that we don't know what the context of this video is. We don't know who he's speaking about. We don't know what this really is. This was just presented to us.
Skedline disclaimed in their coverage that the full context of the video was still unclear at the time. Reports about Mayor Rob Ford ignoring the media started to arise, and Skedline reporter Brad McDonald covered the protesters at City Hall who were upset with Ford's recent allegations. Do you ever feel like Rob was exploited at all?
Sure. There was a couple of articles that ran alongside pictures of him that wasn't flattering at all, which really at some times it didn't have anything to do with the story.
There are times you feel kind of funny about I feel like going to his house and being so close to his home and even his children. But in the same light, sometimes Rob has in the past, it seems like, used his family to protect himself from tough questions, and almost like when the questions about whether or not he did smoke crack were there, he'd had his children there, and I think Robin Doolittle said in his book it was almost like he was daring the press, you're not going to ask me about crack in front of my child, are you?
On November 15th, Toronto City Council began stripping Ford of his powers, and the Skedline reporters had to remain unbiased at all times.
The vulgar language, the erratic behavior, so the bullying, those are the kinds of things that we've seen just this week.
The racism, the homophobia, the bigotry, the abuse of power, the abuse of taxpayers' resources.
Did you ever find it hard to remain unbiased despite the fact that the councillors had different opinions?
Well, I think we were always trying to be unbiased, and that's something you try to be as a reporter. But like you said, a lot of councillors had very harsh opinions on what happened and about the mayor. So in that regard, maybe we could have changed our coverage a little bit. But in that situation where you're so pressed for time and you need responses from people, you tend to just go with what you have. And oftentimes that was councillors who didn't like what the mayor was doing.
I can understand why there might be the perception that maybe there is bias in the reporting, because a lot of the things we are reporting are negativity.
Anytime you're dealing with an issue like that is kind of appears to be a little bit one-sided, or there's that much evidence that happens to exist on one side of things. I think that it's definitely a difficult thing to attempt to balance it, but I think they did a good job doing that. Like, they were exceptionally transparent. Like, there was no opinion injected into any of it. It was just what people were saying, and they did a good job sort of just reporting the guts of that.
And on November 18th, Adam reported what would happen to the mayor's powers.
With a motion that aims to transfer the mayor's office budget to the office of Deputy Mayor Norm Kelly.
I asked Brad what his thoughts were on being a Skedline reporter last year. How was it covering the Rob Ford craziness last year?
Fantastic to be a part of. All these reporters were there that I read and watched, and I have so much respect for, and I was working alongside them on this just rapidly unfolding, spinning, crazy story. It was a lot of fun.
Adam, can you give us some reaction on John Tory being elected the new mayor of Toronto?
Well, here at the social media desk, we can report that people are still just tweeting as crazy. There are a lot of congratulations here for Toronto's new mayor, John Tory. We are also getting some reports of supporters at the Ford HQ that some of them are actually in tears. We have some reporters posting pictures about that. So once again, Twitter and other social media platforms are just erupting after this very, very riveting election tonight. It seems like people are mostly congratulating Tory actually on Twitter under the hashtag #TOPOLI, and we are also getting results and reactions from the other wards in the city. So once again, Twitter is just erupting with congratulatory messages for John Tory, and also some people who are saying that they are sad that Doug Ford and Olivia Chow didn't win the mayoralty. Back to the studio.
Brad McDonald has an update from the Ford camp. News is just coming in. Brad, how's it going over there?
There's shock, disbelief, and happiness here at the Ford campaign event. As you know, Rob Ford has taken back the seat he used to own, Ward 2 in City Council. Beat all of his opponents fairly handily, and the crowd was quite thrilled. Shortly after that, it was announced Olivia Chow had no chance of winning the race, and the crowd was quite thrilled again. But shortly after that, the mayoral results were announced that John Tory is going to be our next mayor, and the room went quite quiet. There's many upset supporters. Some people were crying. Others are calling for a recount and a by-election. But by the looks of the numbers, it looks like it's a pretty strong John Tory vote tonight. Brad McDonald, Skedline News.
Tory won consensus from voters because he vowed to bridge the division between City Hall. With him being mayor, this is what voters can expect from him at City Hall. He's going to spend up to $7 million a year on tree planting and plant 3.8 million trees in 10 years. Build separated bike lanes and develop a tourism cycling strategy. He also wants to build a 53-kilometer and also a 22-stop rail line called the Smart Track, which we did talk about. He also wants to pursue a hybrid proposal to change the Gardner Expressway. Now, Naren, can you also tell us what's going on with the wards? Just recap.
So for Ward 1, we have winner Vincent Crisanti. He won by 49.2%. Just to recap Crisanti and who he was a former city councillor in the city of Etobicoke. Mm-hmm. Some issues that he dealt with. He was a Ford loyalist, so he believes in saving taxpayers' money as well. He also believes in building subways, especially along the Finch West and Ward 1. He votes for lots of cost-cutting measures as well. For Ward 2, we have Rob Ford. He won by 59%. For Rob, he won in Ward 2. He was clearly the former Toronto mayor from 2010 to 2014. He was also the former mayor of Ward 2, the councillor from 2000 to 2014 as well. he was running in the election for Ward 2. His nephew Michael was supposed to be the next Ford in the line to run for councillor, but he seceded in favor of his uncle.
So now actually we're going to head over to Tim right now for an update.
Thanks. We have more results coming in, starting with Ward 21 in St. Paul's District. The 23-year incumbent, NDP incumbent, is leading favorably 76%, Joe Mihevich. He's followed by Kosla Kersey with 9% of the vote, and in third is Ted Bustamante with 8%. In Ward 22 as well, St. Paul's, Josh Matlow is leading whoppingly 85%. Bob Murphy trails with 5.7%, and James O'Shaughnessy is in third place with 5.5% of the vote. In Ward 23, Willowdale, John Fionn is leading with 54%. In second place is David Musabi with 32%, and in third is Kuwan Park at 9%. In Willowdale also, David Shiner is leading with 55%, Dan Fox is at 29%, and Randy Ali is at 7%. Moving on to Ward 25, Don Valley West, Jay Robinson is comfortably in the lead with 82% of the vote. She's trailed by Richard Freeman with 9% and Tanya Hustler with 4% of the vote. Also in Ward 26, Don Valley West, John Burnside leads with 41% of the vote. In second is John Parker with 27% of the vote, and Isbrith Velshi is in third place with 15% of the vote so far. In Ward 27, Toronto Centre Rosedale, leading is incumbent Kristen Wong Tam with 61% of the vote. She's trailed in second by Megan McIver with 17% of the vote, and in third is Benjamin Dichter with 4% of the vote. In Ward 28, Toronto Centre Rosedale, Pam McConnell is leading with 54% of the vote. David Blackmore's 11%, and Jonathan Hughes has 9% of the vote. Now we're going to go back to the studio.
Thanks, Tim. Now we're going to head over to Joita, who's at the Liberty Grand. Joita, tell us what's going on.
And just to reiterate, John Tory is Toronto's newest mayor, so that means this event has officially become a victory party. As people watch on to Olivia Chow's speech, just beforehand, music was absolutely blaring. So a little bit of facts for you. John Tory will be coming down very soon. Right after Olivia Chow's speech will be Doug Ford's, and then will be Tory's. He's got about a 10-minute speech prepared, twice as long as the concession speech he had prepared, so he's put some thought into this. And John Tory is the first mayor of Toronto to win that seat without having been a city councillor first. So that's a very interesting fact for you. So it looks like the city of Toronto has voted for change, and that change is John Tory. Back to you.
Thanks, Joyita. Now back to the winners of the wards 1 to 6. To recap, Ward 1 we have winner Vincent Crisanti by 49.2%. Ward 2 winner Rob Ford by 59%. Ward 3 we had Stephen Holiday winning by 35%. Now Stephen Holiday, he's the eldest son of Doug Holiday, from former councillor, deputy mayor of Toronto, and mayor of Etobicoke and member of the provincial parliament. Like I said, he won by 35%. Then we have Ward 4 winner John Campbell. John Campbell ran for city councillor in the last election, but lost to Gloria Lindsay-Luby, like I mentioned before, by only 309 votes. Prior to that, John Campbell focused more on business rather than politics. In his past, he graduated from UFT. He completed his MBA from Schulich. He was also the TDSB chairman of the board and the TDSB trustee.
So actually now we're going to throw it over to Emily because she has an update.
We're here live in Ward 4 at the Islington Golf Club with Niels Christensen and his party, where he has been defeated by John Campbell. The mood is somber as supporters anticipated a victory. The race was tight, with Christensen trailing closely behind Campbell. Unfortunately, Campbell pulled forward and secured a victory as the new councillor of Ward 4 at Etobicoke Centre. This is Emily Singh, Sked Live.
Thank you, Emily. Now we'll throw it over to Adam, who is tracking the latest reaction on social media. Adam, what do you have for us?
Here at the social media desk out in our newsroom, I've been following the race in Ward 2, where Rob Ford has been elected to his old seat. We have also Michael Ford has been elected as a school board trustee for Ward 1. So of course Michael Ford, who ran in Ward 2 before he dropped out of the race when Rob Ford dropped out in mayoral race and threw his name into the race for Ward 2. So we will have two Fords in city politics this coming term. Doug Ford, as we know by now, will not be the mayor. He will not be in council this coming term. Rob Ford will be there as councillor for Ward 2, a seat he held previous to being mayor, and Michael Ford will function as a school board trustee. Now back to the studio.
Thank you, Adam. Now we're going to throw it over to Nakshi in Ward 5. What's going on there, Nakshi?
Rob Ford has been declared the councillor for Ward 2, and the mood here at 15 Grierson Road is somber as supporters are disappointed. Andre Demise just finished giving his speech, and there was a moment where he seemed overcome with emotion. He said he is thankful for the support he has received in the ward where he is an underdog against the Fords. He's saying this is not the end and that he's going to continue showing his leadership here at Ward 2. This is Nakshi Pandit for Skedline.
Thank you, Nakshi. Now to continue on with the wards, for Ward 5, we have winner Justin DiCiano with 59%. DiCiano, he was the director and CEO of Growth Securities Corporation. He co-founded this Center for Young Women's Empowerment, and he was the chairman of the Toronto Rib Fest. That's his past, and he won over King of Surma. For Ward 6, we have winner Mark Grimes. Mark Grimes, he won for City Councillor Ward 6. So just to recap, Ward 1, we have winner Vincent Crisanti. Ward 2, Rob Ford. Ward 3, Stephen Holiday. Ward 4, John Campbell. Ward 5, Justin DiCiano. And Ward 6, Mark Grimes.
Now getting back to the issue of the new mayor, John Tory also opposes any plan that will reduce traffic lanes along Eglinton.
Also, outsource garbage collection east of Yonge Street.
And he will also reduce property taxes for 10 years along the new Scarborough subway to encourage business.
He's an advocate for increased childcare funding from federal and provincial governments.
Also retain the land transfer tax and keep residential property taxes at or below the rate of inflation.
And Tory will also establish a standing committee in council for housing the homelessness.
He wants to form a task force of councillors, tenants, and housing experts to review Toronto's community housing corporate structure.
He would not push for a handgun ban since handguns are already highly regulated.
This Toronto municipal election, particularly the race for the mayor's seat, grabbed worldwide attention from the last year's crack scandal with Mayor Rob Ford. From this admission of smoking crack to the videotaped violent rants, the series of events pushed this election into the spotlight.
John Tory held his own with the media, bringing a steady calm to matters on the Fords, wanting to stop the gravy train in its tracks. Although he was deemed an elitist and was criticized for flip-flopping on his transit plan, Tory did his due diligence to deflect any wrongdoing in his past, like being a part of an American cable company that folded, like I mentioned earlier, and often showcased his positive can-do track record within the private sector and his well-known political career.
Tory never really bashed them, Chow or Ford. Chow slammed Tory's smart track plan. Ford was even blunter and called Tory a phony. This could have swayed voters since he was the only one who continually focused on the issues at hand, and he tried to engage the least in personality or plan of attacking. Now we'll go back to Adam, who's paying close attention to the election outcomes.
Tim?
We have an update in some other mayoral races outside of Toronto. There's going to be a new era in Mississauga. After 36 years, the 93-year-old Hazel McCallion stepped down this year and made the way for a new candidate who's actually just been named. Bonnie Crombie is now going to be the new mayor of Mississauga. Early on in the race, she faced stiff competition from Stephen Mahoney, but McCallion, unable to stay out of the spotlight since retiring, initially said she would not endorse a candidate. She later turned around and actually endorsed Crombie, who won decisively tonight. Elsewhere in Oakville, Rob Burton is re-elected with 67% of the vote. In Burlington, Rick Goldring has also been re-elected with 87% of the vote. In Hamilton, Fred Eisenberger is currently leading with 42% of the vote. He is leading Brad Clark, who's at 29%, and Brian McHattie, who's at 20%. In Markham, Frank Scarpitti is leading currently with 74% of the vote. He's trailed by Stephen Kochik with 13%, and Partap Dua is at 4.7%. That's what's happening in other mayoral races around the city. Now back to you guys.
My apologies, Tim. We are taking a short break, so please check out the live blog at skedline.com.
Welcome back. With a recap of the night so far, John Tory is the new mayor of Toronto. Now I'll flip it over to Nurin with the updates of the 6 city council wards in Etobicoke.
Let me give you an update on the winners of the first 6 Etobicoke wards. We have Vincent Crisanti winning by 49.2% for Ward 1. Ward 2, we have Rob Ford winning with 59%. Ward 3, we have Stephen Holiday winning with 35%. Ward 4, we have John Campbell with 35.8%. Ward 5, Justin DiCiano with 59%. And Ward 6, we have winner Mark Grimes.
Thank you, Nurin. Joita Sengupta is standing by at the Liberty Ground with Tory supporters. Joita.
Here at Tory headquarters in Liberty Grand, people are just waiting for Doug Ford's concession speech. But as you can see behind me, or you might be able to see, John Tory's family has filed in just next to the stage. So they're just waiting. It's going to happen any minute now with Doug Ford, and then we're going to go to John Tory's speech right after that. Another little tidbit of information for you. Not only has John Tory now officially been elected mayor, he officially has more votes this time than Rob Ford did in 2010. So a major win for John Tory with a 64% voter turnout, which is huge for a city like Toronto. Back to you.
We can't explain this election without talking about the Ford triple switch. Angelica, can you explain what exactly happened on that whirlwind of a day?
In a bizarre turn of events on Friday, September 12th, Doug Ford arrived at City Hall with nomination papers to officially enter the mayoral race minutes before the deadline for candidates to register. Rob then signed up to run for his old Etobicoke North seat in Ward 2, which we just found out he had won, replacing his nephew Michael Ford, who withdrew from that race to run for the TDSB school trustee in Ward 1. The main reason for the switcheroo was that Rob Ford was in bad shape. He was a little bit unhealthy. He was admitted to the hospital days before because of a cancerous tumor in his abdomen.
And that day changed the whole landscape of the race, and the Mayor Rob Ford era ended as dramatically as it started. The big mayor switch did not work out for Rob in the end, but Rob won election in Ward 2, and his nephew Michael Ford won election in Ward 1 as a TDSB school trustee.
We are now going over to Brad McDonald, where he's going to be making news. Hey, Brad, can you tell us a little about Ford Nation? Brad?
Rob Ford just delivered his victory speech for his victory in Ward 2 for the councillor. He congratulated John Tory and pledged to make sure John Tory is held to some of his promises from the election. Rob said he needs to take care of his health for a little bit first, as you know, he was diagnosed with cancer back in September, but he says he will keep on working for the taxpayers of Ward 2. The crowd loved him, they were cheering, and he appreciated his support as much as he always has. Brad McDonald, Deadline.
So we just got some news in here that there was a 64% voter turnout, which is shattering the post-amalgamation record. Adam is still monitoring social media reaction results. Adam, what are you finding out?
we here at the social media desk are tracking what people are saying about the Rob Ford victory speech earlier this evening. Daniel Dale of the Toronto Star tweeted, "This is by far the healthiest Ford has sounded since he withdrew from the race. He's previously sounded raspy, almost unable to speak." But now people are tweeting about the speech and what it included, such as Ford hinting at a new mayoral campaign in 2018. People are also picking up on things such as Ford's promise to fix potholes and fix garbage collections. Yes, which Ford himself said that might look small to other people, but in his word, that's really, really important. So again, Twitter is exploding with news about this mayoral race as well as the 44 ward races across the city. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Adam. Youth is a big portion of the city's population, and fixing this age group's employment problem can help the city's economy as a whole. Angelica, John Tory's campaign motto was One Toronto. What does this mean?
So John Tory wants to double the number of companies in the partnership to advance youth employment programs. He basically wants to act as a youth employment ambassador and set an example for the youth in Toronto, which is including coordinating more with youth services and to connect young people with jobs in medium to small businesses. We will now throw it over to Tim, who has some more news regarding the races in Toronto. Tim, what is happening?
We have an update in the Brampton mayoral race. Susan Fennell, the incumbent since 2000, is actually losing right now to Linda Jeffrey.
Kristen Wong-Tam won in Ward 27. Now we go over to Aaron Pfaff's interview with Wong-Tam that he did last week.
The Toronto municipal election is taking place on October 27th, and Kristen Wong-Tam is running for re-election. She's been one of the city's most headline-grabbing councillors, and I met with her here in Ward 27 to talk about her work and her thoughts for the future. At Yonge and Davenport, Kristen's team is planning next steps and projects. This foresight is no surprise. During her first term on City Council, Kristen had the second most motions carried, over 800. Kristen had this to say about her effectiveness as a public servant.
When you craft motions, it's all about finding resolutions. It's about bringing voices in, because motions are not necessarily just words on paper. It's about asking for an outcome and a strategy that's going to give you the result that you're looking for. And that's what we did with those motions, which means that those who are living and working and own property in Ward 27, they have a very effective voice at council.
Kristen has made city green space a defining part of her initiatives. One of the most famous projects she spearheaded was the remodeling and renaming of the former Crowther Square Park as Barbara Hall Park, the site of a prominent HIV/AIDS memorial.
Barbara Hall's legacy is vast. You know, she was one of the person who actually brought, and sponsored and promoted AIDS funding so that we can actually get information out to our communities to keep our communities safe and healthy. She was also a huge advocate for women's equality, child rights, affordable housing, cooperative housing. The list can go on. And a number of those issues are very important to the community that the park sits in. Right behind the new Barbara Hall Park is actually Crowther Square. So there is no risk of erasing anyone's history, but there is now a park that is named for the first mayor in the city of Toronto who openly marched in the LGBT parade.
The councillor's open condemnation of Rob Ford's homophobia has earned her the ire of Ford Nation, yet she sticks to her guns when discussing the topic.
When Mayor Ford was elected, I did everything I can to reach out to him. I happen to be the only openly gay member of council, and I didn't want the LGBTQ two-spirited community to ever feel like City Council was shut to them. I always wanted them to know the front doors and the back doors and the side doors were open. And what I found to be the most challenging thing about Mayor Ford is that he's a very stubborn man, and he just could not understand that he had to be the mayor of all people.
So who does Kristen Wong-Tam endorse in the upcoming election?
So far, from what I can tell, Olivia Chow has released probably the most thorough platform today. And when John releases his platform, I'll look forward to reviewing that as well.
This has been Aaron Pfaff for Skedline News.
Thank you. Now we're going to be heading over to Adam at the social media desk. Adam, can you tell us what's going on social media?
Well, here at the social media desk, again, we've been tracking what's going on in the election and on the internet. We can say that it's been a really successful election for the incumbents. Most of them have been re-elected. The big upset here is in Ward 26, Don Valley West, where the incumbent John Parker lost to John Burnside. Burnside ran in the last election and came fairly close to beating Parker that time. This time, he has been declared the winner. He got 9,415 votes compared to Parker's 6,167 votes. Parker, of course, was the deputy speaker for most of last term in council. So again, this is perhaps the biggest upset in the ward races across Toronto tonight. Back to the studio.
Thank you, Adam.
And that has been Sked Live's coverage for the 2014 municipal election. Thank you for watching. I'm going to say thank you on behalf of my two co-hosts here. The stream will stay live for John Tory's acceptance speech, and it's expected to come within the next hour. Thank you so much.